Explore more about the topics you love with Toppr. Subscribe now and keep learning.
Hey student, in this session you are going to learn about the hollow spaces present inside the brain, which are called ventricles. So ventricles, like we just said, these are the hollow spaces present inside the brain which are filled by a fluid, and this fluid is what we call CSF, or the cerebrospinal fluid. So except for the midbrain, cerebellum, pons and olfactory lobes, the entire brain, the complete brain is hollow inside. So let's have a look at the brain, the longitudinal section of the brain, and identify these ventricles. Firstly, we see that in human brain, the first two ventricles, they are found in both the cerebral hemispheres. So here we see that this is the first ventricle, the first and second ventricle, and these ventricles are called paracele or lateral ventricles. Okay, so these are the first two ventricles. Next we see that the first two ventricles from both the hemisphere, they join together and then they open into the diencephalon, and this is what forms the third ventricle, and this ventricle is called diocele. Okay, this is called as diocele. Next we see that this third ventricle, next to it there is a formation of a tent-like structure with the help of pons, cerebellum and medulla oblongata, and this is what forms the fourth ventricle. So this is the fourth ventricle. Okay. Now we see that the fourth ventricle, it continues into metacele, and which leads to the central canal found in the spinal cord. Now on the posterior side and dorsal side of this metacele, what we see is there are again two more foramen present, and these two are called as foramen of Magendie and foramen of Lashka. So this was about the four ventricles. Now important point in here is that the first two ventricles which combine to form the third ventricle, there is a foramen present, and this is called as interforamen or foramen of Monro. This is foramen of Monro, which is found between the first two and the third ventricle. Okay, so this is found between two paraceles and diocele. Next, again we see that between the third ventricle and the fourth ventricle, there is a duct which is called as, this duct, it is called as Aqueduct of Sylvius. This is called as Aqueduct of Sylvius, which connects the third and the fourth ventricle. So this was about the ventricles, how we can see that the brain is hollow, and this brain which is hollow inside, it is entirely filled by the fluid called as CSF. Now like I told you, the metacele, it has a few foramen. The CSF, it enters the arachnoid space with the help of these foramen only. So this was about the ventricles, wherein we have seen that these are the hollow spaces which are filled by CSF.
Explore more about the topics you love with Toppr. Subscribe now and keep learning.